Okay, I think we're good now. I'm hoping we're good now. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Today's topic, of course, is does Judaism believe in meditation? And I think you all know the answer. The answer is that Judaism is all about meditation. And particularly, if you're familiar with Chabad, Chabad, of course, is a Hasidic sect, disciples of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism. The word Chabad is an acronym. It's 3 letters, which is Chachma, Bina, and Dat, which is the 3 intellectual faculties of the mind, which govern, control, and stimulate the emotions. And therefore, the emphasis of Chabad is exactly the idea of meditation, contemplation, thought, and how it is only through the mind that we can truly come to the deepest connections with Hashem, with God, and our fellow man. So, to begin, there are many different forms of meditation. And while Judaism believes in meditation, and will explore the extent of Judaism's emphasis on meditation, the one distinction we'll make from the onset is that in traditional meditation, and I'm no expert in meditation, but in the Eastern meditations, one of the goals, at least, of meditation is to come to a state of nothingness. In other words, they see meditation as an end unto itself, that through the meditative state, you will find peace and serenity and calmness, and it will lower your blood pressure, and it'll make you less stressed out and make you calmer and more relaxed. And of course, that's wonderful. There's a lot of physical benefits to just being calm and serene and relaxed. But what I would say is that in Jewish meditation, it's not an end unto itself. Meditation is a means to an end. What is that higher end? It's the spiritual goal of meditation, which is achieving a state of, if you're familiar with Kabbalistic or Hasidic thought, it's called dveikut. Dveikut is oneness, to become one with God. Now, in meditation, they talk about maybe becoming one with the world or with nature. But what is the world and what is nature? Just like your soul fills your body and gives vitality to every limb and every part of your body, the whole universe is filled with God's energy. And therefore, becoming one with the world around you, dveikut, is really becoming one with God. And truly, according to Kabbalistic and Hasidic teachings, it's connecting with God even as he transcends the world, because the world as we know it is the infinite manifestation of, the finite manifestation of God. It's how God enclosed himself in a limited physical world. But God's essence truly transcendent even beyond the physical world. So when we talk about dveikut, becoming one, becoming attached, becoming seamless with God through meditation and contemplation and reflection and mindfulness, we're talking about connecting with God even as he transcends the physical world. Just like if you got into Kabbalistic and Hasidic teachings, there's a dimension of our soul that resides in the body, specifically 3 parts of the soul, nefesh, ruach, neshama. But there are 2 parts of our individual soul that remains on high with God. And we connect with the higher parts of our soul that even transcend our physical body, just as God transcends the physical world. So again, meditation and contemplation and mindfulness is a tool to become closer to God. The goal is dveikut, oneness with God. And when we are aligned with God, our souls are truly aligned. That, of course, brings not just peace and serenity and calmness, but it brings clarity and focus and direction and purpose to all of our lives, and eliminates, of course, automatically a lot of the tension and the stress and the anxiety and the worry and the doubt and the fear and the anxiety and the insecurities that come from losing our alignment and becoming detached from God. So meditation is really at the essence of Judaism, and as we're going to see in this class, built into a Jewish lifestyle are many of the tools of meditation that if you're just observing Judaism, you are automatically practicing meditation on a regular basis, whether you're aware of the fact that you're practicing meditation or not aware of the fact that you're practicing meditation. Now, why is it necessary to practice meditation on a regular basis? Because the natural world we live in is not conducive. And not only is it not conducive, but it obstructs the natural alignment of the soul with God. Because we live, as you know, in a world filled with distractions. And not only distractions, but noise and so many messages and other life circumstances that are constantly pulling us in many different directions. And therefore, we always need to realign ourselves, to remember our source, because when we're connected to our source, that's when our soul is energized rather than fatigued. And that's when we have the most strength and power to overcome and to deal successfully with all of the challenges and obstacles that we all have in our individual lives. But the natural course of the world is to take us afield, to cause us to drift and sway from that alignment. And if we take effort and focus and repurposing ourselves and realigning ourselves to be in sync with that connection to God, because our souls come from on high, from a connection to God that it experienced in heaven that was unparalleled. But this world was filled with concealment and hiddenness. And sometimes we're not aware of our own soul because we're so distracted with everything in our lives that we forget about our essence. And what is really meditation? Meditation is sitting down, and as the words of the prophets say, God is not in the storm, he's not in the cloud, he's not in the thunder, but he's in the cold mamad daka, in the inner silent, still voice. Cold mamad daka is that still silent voice. And sometimes we can only connect with God when we stop, block out all the noise, stop all the distractions, and listen to our own inner thoughts. Because if you really think about it, how much time a day, we're thinking 24/7. Thought is not something you can turn off. It's a constant. But half of the time, we're not aware of our thoughts. It's like an autopilot. And half of the time, the thoughts we are thinking about are the noises and the distractions that are bombarding our consciousness. But how much time do we have to listen to our own inner thoughts? And that's really what contemplation and meditation is. Or in the words of Kabbalah and Chassidut, hitbonenut. The word hitbonenut means contemplation. Or if you want to translate meditation, it's hisbonenut, deeply concentrating, thinking about something, which leads to dveikut, to attachment to our true essence, which is our soul, which is attachment to God. In certain Hasidic doctrines, they practice what is known as not only hisbonenut, which means contemplation and meditation, but they practice what is called hisbodedut, which means physically detaching yourself from the world around you, going out into the forest and meditating, being alone in solitude. There's a famous story about this young man who took up Hasidic practices, and he would go out to pray in the forest, to meditate. And his father didn't like this new way of practicing Judaism. And he said to him, "Why do you need to go to the forest?" He says, "Because I want to find God." His father said, "But the same God that is in the forest is here in the village, in the town, in the city. Why do you need to go to the forest to find God if God is the same here as he is there?" And the young man said to his father, "I know that God is the same everywhere, but I am not the same. I'm not the same person in the forest as I am here. And we all know that feeling if we've gone on a vacation and we came to a very serene place and we're able to think and our thoughts are clearer because we have less of the day-to-day clutter, sabotaging our thoughts, hijacking our thoughts. And that's really what it is. Our thoughts are constantly being hijacked by everything that is pulling and pressing on us from every direction. And so having time for meditation, for contemplation, to connect with our source, to energize ourselves, gives us the spiritual energy and fusion. It's a spiritual infusion that allows us to then deal with the world around us in a much more productive, healthy, balanced, and successful way. So going back to the original question of this class, does Judaism believe in meditation? Judaism is all about meditation because the soul comes into this world, is detached from its true source and reality, and needs effort to connect with Hashem. I'm sure everyone knows the word kavanah. The literal translation of the word kavanah is, or the figurative translation is concentration. Pray with kavanah, pray with concentration, or actually do every mitzvah with kavanah. The Talmud says mitzvah below kavanah, a mitzvah without concentration, without focus, is like a body without a soul. It's lifeless. But the real word, we're going to Israel, God willing, soon, many of the members of the shul. But when you come to Israel, you ask someone for directions, you say, Eze kivun, which direction? The word kavanah is direction, which means your thoughts have to be directed. And your thoughts will pull in one direction or another, but you have to redirect those thoughts in the proper direction. Taking control of your thoughts is the most difficult thing to do, but at the same time, the most rewarding thing you can do. Allowing your thoughts to just go astray in every far field direction is a waste of your thoughts, a waste of your energy. And furthermore, it could be very damaging because if your thoughts go into a negative place, a place of fear, a place of insecurity, a place of doubt, a place of improper thoughts, the list is very long of the negative things, your thoughts of inadequacy, then those thoughts can drain you, sap you of all your strength and all your energy. So having control of your thoughts is the most difficult thing, but is the most important thing. And really in a generation of AI, where more and more computers are replacing human beings, the only real distinction between us and the computer that we're sitting in front of is who controls our thoughts. A computer doesn't have control of its thoughts. It's programmed by a human being. Whatever you put in is what it has. It can't choose its thoughts. We human beings have one superiority, and that is we have free choice. And free choice doesn't just mean I can choose what to do. Of course, that's the simplest free choice, my actions. A higher level of free choice is I could choose my speech. I don't have to say everything I'm thinking. I have free choice to say it or not to say it now or to delay saying it. Delaying gratification. But the ultimate free choice and the most difficult free choice is the free choice of what I'm going to think and what I'm not going to think. And there are many life hacks and teachings of our rabbis that guide us in this manner. But the first thing to understand is that your thoughts are not you. When you sit back in meditation and observe your thoughts, you realize you're not your thoughts. Who is the you that's observing your thoughts in meditation? Obviously, the you is deeper, just like action is, and that's why in Tanya, for those who study the book of Tanya, from the Alter Rebbe of Shnei Zalman al-Vladi, the Alter Rebbe says thought, speech, and action are garments, are clothing. Just like if you don't like your clothing, you could go buy new clothing. Just like if your clothing are stained or soiled, you could go into your closet and put on a different pair of clothing. If you don't like you can change it. Everyone knows I am not my actions. And I'm not even what I say, because I could change my speech if I don't like my speech. Like a garment that I could exchange it. I could put on a nicer pair of clothing, a more beautiful pair of clothing. But even thoughts is a garment of the soul. Just like your body has garments, Your soul has 3 layers of garments: thought, speech, and action. And if you don't like your thoughts, you can change it. Now, what does that mean to change it? Just like you have a wardrobe of beautiful clothing you could wear, there's a infinite wardrobe of positive thoughts that you can put on. And by the way, one of the reasons, in Judaism, we learn Torah every day. One reason is to give us fresh new thoughts that are positive to think about every day, to combat all the other negative thoughts that are invading our mental space. But further than that, it's very important. And when we were children, this was part of our upbringing. We always had to memorize as many passages of Torah or Mishnah or Tanya by heart. Why was it always important? And we were always encouraged to memorize Torah passages so that wherever you go, you have a new set of clothing. If a negative thought encroaches upon you, or maybe not a negative thought, just vain, empty thoughts, you could always choose to fill your mind with something positive and constructive. If someone is sad, for example, and you say to them, "Why are you so sad?" That doesn't help them. "I'm sad. What do you want me to do?" The better thing to do is start sharing with them happy thoughts. And the more you share with them happy thoughts, uplifting thoughts, positive thoughts, inspiring thoughts, slowly their mood will begin to change and they'll start becoming happier. And the same thing is if we sit around moping, "Why am I sad? Why am I depressed? Why am I anxious? Why am I worried? Why am I nervous? Why am I angry? Why am I this? Why am I that?" It's not going to help. It's like a whirlpool. You're just going to go deeper and deeper. What you need is a new thought, a positive thought to replace the negative thought. It's like the elephant in the room. Don't think about an elephant. All you're going to think about is an elephant. Don't grapple. It's like quicksand. You're just going to get deeper and deeper and more depressed if you try to fight that thought. Just realize the thought is not me. They say Churchill suffered from depression, and he wrote in his biography that he imagined the depression like a black dog that's barking. And he looked at it like, okay, that's the black dog. It's not me. Understand that those negative thoughts are outside of you. They're in you, but they're coming from outside, not your true essence. And therefore, because it's not your true essence, you have the freedom to exchange it with a positive thought. And by always memorizing thoughts of Torah, if you go to a Torah class or you learn something, write it down. You could always look at it. Today you have your phones, you could play a Torah class, and immediately your thoughts will change into positive thoughts. And so focusing on your thoughts and directing your thoughts and taking control of your thoughts is what Judaism is all about. And Judaism helps us do this in so many different ways. Today we live in a world where people mistaken 2 words, activity and productivity. People assume the more active you are, the more productive you are. But the truth is, productivity has nothing to do with activity. I'm not saying it has nothing to do. Obviously, activity could be very productive. But just because you're active doesn't mean you're being productive. And therefore, people don't want to meditate because it's a waste of time. Just going to sit and do nothing. If you go out in the street and sit on a bench and just do nothing, somebody's going to come up with you after 5 minutes and say, "Is everything okay?" Something must be wrong if you're just sitting and doing nothing. You always have to be doing something. So everyone's busy with their phones and with their action, doing. But when you're so busy doing, you're not being, you're not thinking. And therefore, the first thing is meditation. And I want you to know that in Hasidic teachings, the Alter Rebbe says this in Tanya, is before you even begin praying, he says you should meditate. You should take a few moments to think about the greatness of God and God's love for you, and how God instilled a soul in your body. And think Kabbalistic, Hasidic thoughts of contemplation of, as he says, to quote him, he says, Gadlus Habora, the magnificence, the awesomeness of God, and Katnas Hanivra, how small we are in comparison to God's infinite greatness, and how we can connect to this infinite loving God through the mitzvot, through prayer, through the study of Torah. So that's meditation. That's stopping and thinking and contemplating. But then, of course, we have prayer. And prayer is very much a form of meditation. Now, we all know that in traditional meditation, there's a mantra, and you repeat it over and over. And that repetition is what affects the mind and penetrates the mind and unleashes this deeper consciousness, which allows us to tap into our inner true self, which is the goal of meditation. When you think about prayers, it's a form of a mantra. Now, there's the prayers we say out loud, and then there's the prayers like the Amidah, which is said in silence, like a meditation. The whole congregation rises and there's silence. And we go through the Amidah 3 times a day, like a mantra, over and over again. So you could take any prayer, and I'll just take the bookends of our Jewish day, the Moda'ani in the morning and the Shema in the evening. And if you're not praying those 2 prayers, I plead with you and I encourage you to start today. At a minimum, in the morning you say the Moda'ani, in the evening you say the Shema. And even if you just say 1 sentence, that is a great way to start meditating. When a Jew wakes up in the morning, before they get out of bed, Jewish law says, you awaken, you have consciousness, you realize you're alive. First thing you do is you say 12 words. Moda ani lefanecha, I give thanks to you, God, Melech Chai v'Kayim, living and eternal King, Shechazarta bi nishmati, that you returned my soul to me this morning, Bechemla, with graciousness, Rabbi Monasecha, great is your faith in me that you gave me another day to live. The very first meditation of the day is gratitude. Before you jump out of bed and your mind goes to, what do I got to do today? Where do I have to be? What's on my calendar? Before you check your phone to see who texted you during the night or who WhatsApped you or which emails you got, consciousness, meditation, sit in your bed, put your hands together. Not like this, but Jewishly, we put our hands together like this. And we say, we stop, we close our eyes, and we say, God, from the fact that I woke up this morning, that I'm alive. And the fact that I'm alive means that you gave me back my soul. And the fact that you gave me back my soul means that you have great expectations for me to do many good things today with this gift of life that you bestowed upon me today. What a powerful way. Now, you want to think about it, 12 words at a minimum, say 1 word at a time. It'll take about a second a word. That's 12 seconds, but you can think about it for 30 seconds, for a minute. But to start your day with the very first thought in your mind. And when we talk about meditation, just that there's Chachma, Bina, and Das. 3 intellectual faculties. The third one, Das, is the feeling in the brain, which means there's a connector between the brain and the heart. When you meditate, you want to feel what you're thinking. And even in the mind, you could start feeling gratitude. And therefore, it's not just to say the words, not just to think the words, but to summon up that feeling of gratitude. What does it feel like in your heart when you're grateful? What does it feel like when you're empowered to do mitzvot and to have a positive impact on the world today? Because if God gave me the gift of life, it's a gift to be shared and do positive mitzvot in the world with the day that God has given me today. So the very first thought is gratitude and empowerment to go out and do some wonderful things today that God has in store for you. That's the morning meditation. And throughout the day, there are many prayers. You drink a little cup of water. You thank God. You don't just gulp down the water. You appreciate the water. And when you take the time to what is mindfulness? I realized what I'm doing. God gave me water. What does it feel like to be thirsty? And then think about the feeling of having fresh water go down your throat and feel that gratitude and feel that vitality. What a blessing is. It's a momentary pause before we partake from the world to feel the enjoyment, and then the water tastes better and it's more refreshing and you feel more gratitude. And we all know the benefits of gratitude. So throughout the day, it says a person should make 100 blessings a day. If you can't, all the prayers that we say and all the blessings over food, that's 100 points of gratitude on a daily basis. And then when we finish the day, before we lie down to bed, we say the famous words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Now you notice there are 6 words there, and that's a meditation, because there are 6 directions: above, below, right, left, forward, and backward. And you imagine God being one. What is God being one? Not just that it's one God. It means that God is one with everything in this world. There's nothing outside of God. Everything, we're all within God. And you feel how we are encompassed in God's loving embrace, because Echad means He is one with everything. There is only God. And you feel God in all 6 directions around you. When you go to bed with that peaceful feeling that you're going to sleep. And as we say in the bedtime Shema, B'yadcha afkid ruchi, I entrust my spirit with you, God. Redeem my soul. Cleanse my soul tonight while I'm asleep. Refresh my soul, like when you put your phone into the charger, you wake up and you have a brand new phone all charged up 100%. When the light was at red, it was burning out. You wake up, it's all green and refreshed. And you go to sleep sometimes, as the expression is, I'm dead tired. I feel like I'm dead. I feel exhausted. I have no more strength. And God is going to refresh and replenish my soul and give it back to me in the morning. When I wake up, I'm going to say, Modani, not just that I'm alive, but I'm alive with vigor and new strength, as it says in Jewish law. Wake up like a lion with vigor, roar like a lion. And you thank God for that newfound strength for the new day. So you go to sleep with this peaceful, and I want you to know the bedtime Shema, everyone should do what they can. If you just say the 6 words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, imagine God all around you, that in itself is a meditation. But if you read all the passages, there's one passage in the bedtime Shema that says, Mimini Michael, to my right side of my bed is the angel Michael. Mismoli Gabriel, Gabriel is to the left side. Milfanai Oriel, the angel of light is in front of me. Me'achorai Raphael, behind me is the angel of healing. Ve'al Roshi, and above my head is the Shechinat Kel, the divine presence.
I'm listening to the rabbi.
So we imagine the angels.
And I lost the sound.
Somebody has their mute button off. If you could please close it. We imagine as we go to bed, the angels all around our bed and God above our bed. What a beautiful way to get a good night's sleep every night. You know, many times I have the privilege to put on tefillin with Jews who have never put on tefillin. And of course, I put on the tefillin with them and say the blessing and the Shema. But after we say the words of the Shema, I ask them to do this. I say, take a moment, close your eyes, and imagine the faces of your loved ones, one at a time. Your spouse, your parents, if they're alive, your children, all your loved ones. And in your heart, say a prayer for each one of them with the image of their face in front of you. That's meditation. Don't just say words. When you say a prayer for someone to have a recovery, imagine their face in front of them. I know someone who says Kaddish for their father. And every time they say Kaddish, before they start, they put their hands over their forehead, like in a meditation. And I once said, well, I noticed you do this. Why do you do this? And he said, before I start the Kaddish, I always take a moment to imagine the image of my father in front of my eyes. That in mind, I begin saying the Kaddish for his soul. Prayer is not just saying words by rote. It's not just saying words mechanically. It's closing our eyes. And during the Shema, we actually cover our eyes. But whenever you are praying, close your eyes and connect with the words. When you say the words in the Amidah, Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed, that God sustains the world with kindness, feel God's kindness. Tap into that feeling of gratitude and appreciation. You know, last week we read about the manna. It says the manna, whatever you imagined it to be, that's what it tastes like. And it's really a metaphor for life. Life is what you imagine it to be. What does that mean? You could have two people doing the same job, and you could ask them, how do you like your job? One person say it's terrible, it's miserable, it's boring, it's backbreaking labor, it's hard. The other person was like, it's wonderful. I get to help so many people. I have so many wonderful clients. I get to earn a living, bring it home to my spouse and children, take care of my family. I'm so grateful. I'm so appreciative. They're doing the same job, maybe in the same department, in the same company. But one is filled with appreciation because when they're doing their job, it's not about the work. Someone once said, if you look at, we just had the playoffs of the basketball game, right? And you see these players for an hour running up and down the court. So someone said, imagine if you took away the ball and you said, do this for an hour, run up and down the court, ducking, jumping, hitting the floor. They say, you're crazy. It's exhausting. I can't do that. The minute you give them a ball, it's a fun game. They're having a blast. Same amount of work, same amount of effort, same amount of toil, same amount of sweat. But when there's a ball and a goal, everything is fun, everything's pleasurable, everything's enjoyable. And the same thing is true with life. You got to keep your eye on the ball. You have to know why you're doing something. That's what consciousness is. Meditation is. It allows us to think more deeply into what we're doing. And as I said, starting with, of course, Shabbat, which is a 24-hour period of meditation of sorts, where we detach from the physical world. We talked about going into the forest, his bodedut, isolation, solitude, being alone. And sometimes people want an exotic vacation. They go to some far-off resort island where there's no phone reception, where they could have silence. Well, you could do that once a year, maybe, or once in 10 years on your anniversary or some special occasion. But Shabbat is a built-in technique every week. You could be in your home, in your apartment, in your neighborhood. You don't have to go anywhere. But the minute you disconnect from the technology, from the car, from the phone, from the computer, you have a psychological detachment, his bodedut. You're detached. You're in isolation. What does that mean? You're in a cocoon of your family, your friends, your community, and you block out. And by the way, fascinatingly, we talked about thought, speech, and action. Jewish law says you're not allowed to work on Shabbat. We all know that. But Jewish law goes further than that. Jewish law says you're not allowed to talk business on Shabbat. And Jewish law goes further and says you're not allowed to think about business. And you say, well, how do I control my thoughts? But that takes a lot of practice. But if a thought comes into your mind, you don't have to entertain it. You can't control that it entered your mind, but you could push it right out and say, it's Shabbat. I want to maintain a state of calm and peacefulness and tranquility. I don't want to be disturbed by negative or stressful or worrisome thoughts. And therefore, you have to have a mindset that all your work is done, everything is complete, there's nothing undone when you celebrate Shabbat. Another prime example, there are certain commandments that are constant commandments, like loving God, loving our fellow man, having love for God, having awe of God. These are what is called mitzvot midot, constant commandments. And the question is, how could you love God? How could you be commanded to love God? How could you be commanded to love your fellow man? Love is an emotion. How could you could command me to do something. You could command me to say something, but you can't command me to feel something. If I don't feel love for my fellow man, how am I going to feel it? Because you commanded me to? How am I going to love God if I don't feel it? And the answer is one word: meditation. Without meditation, you can't. But through proper meditation, you will come to love God. When you contemplate and meditate on God's greatness, you will come to love God. When you contemplate and meditate on your fellow man and your intrinsic connection to him, that we all have a soul that comes from one God, you will come to love that person. When you concentrate and meditate on their good qualities, you will come to love them as well. So there are many ways that we can attain feelings, emotions, but it's only done through meditation and through contemplation. And again, controlling your thoughts is the most difficult thing, and it takes the most effort. But it's the most rewarding. When you see someone going for a walk, and they're walking their dog. And you see the dog starts pulling to the left or to the right. What does the owner do? He pulls it back and guides the dog. Your thoughts sometimes are coming from your godly soul, and then they're beautiful thoughts. But sometimes they're coming from your animalistic soul. We all have two souls, a godly soul and an animalistic soul. And just like when your animal pulls you in a bad direction, you have the leash and you pull the animal back, you pull the dog back. When your animal soul starts lusting for improper things, starts having negative thoughts, or even thoughts of insecurities or fear, which are all tactics of the evil inclination to get you to be vulnerable and weak and despondent, because then he could misguide you. Realize, where are these negative thoughts coming from? Where are these feelings coming from? And if they're coming from a holy place, you're having holy thoughts, noble thoughts, righteous thoughts, sublime thoughts, indulge, engage, go deeper. But if the thoughts are coming from the animal soul, realize you don't have to follow the animal. You're the master of that dog. The dog has to follow you, and you redirect it. You don't allow the animal to pull you wherever the animal wants to go. No owner says, I'm going to go for a walk and let my animal take me where I want to take him. The owner knows where the animal has to go. God burdened us with an animal soul, but not to have the animal draw us and drag us into terrible places, but on the contrary, for us to redirect the animal and to even elevate the animal. And when we meditate, which is, like I said, thinking about God, studying about God, memorizing passages of Torah, practicing his bonenut or his bodedut or dveikut, which is bonenut means concentration, focus, kavanah, dveikut is attachment to God, his bodedut is isolation. When we do that, we're connecting with God, our higher self, our soul, our deeper consciousness. We're going deep within and high. At the same time, we're refining our animal soul, because our animal soul has to listen to all these positive thoughts. And therefore, you're slowly but surely penetrating your animal soul. So your animal soul is less combative and obstructive to your path, because it too has been impacted by the positive concentration and meditation that you've had. There's one other powerful way of meditation, and that is known as a nigun, a melody. You all know there are plenty of songs that have words to it. But then there's, and Hasidim practices very much, something called a nigun. A nigun is a deep meditative song that stirs the soul. And just like in some meditations, there's different types of meditations. One is just sitting in silence. We do that meditation, thinking about God, having moments of silence, of thinking, of contemplation. It says before you go to sleep, you should do an accounting of the day. You should stop and think about the day. Which actions were good, which need improvement tomorrow. Then there's words, which is like a mantra, saying the same word, Shema Yisrael, Hashem. How many times have you said Shema Yisrael? How many times have you said Modani in your life? And therefore, it's like a mantra. You repeat it over and over again and think about God being all encompassing, all around you. God is before you, behind you, to your side, above you. Echad, the word echad means one. God is the only one. Everything is God. God is everything. Just like your soul fills your body, God fills the whole universe. The word echad is made up of 3 letters. A rabbi say Aleph stands for one God. Ches stands for the earth and the 7 heavens, the number 8. And Dalet is the 4 directions. So you think about echad, one God, earth and the 7 heavens above, and Dalet, the 4 directions. That's the numerical value of the word Achad. Some people even meditate on the letter Aleph. Just envision the letter Aleph. Why? Because an Aleph is a Vav in the middle with a Yud on top and a Yud on bottom. If you know the Hebrew alphabet, Yud has the numerical value of 10. So you have the little Yud on the top, the little Yud on the bottom is 10, and 10 is 20. And the Vav is 6, which is 26. The numerical value of Vav is 6, which means that the letter Aleph equals 26. 26 is the name of God. Yud, Hey, Vav, K is 26. So you just think of the letter Aleph. You imagine it in front of your eyes. That's a meditation. There are many different types of meditations. But a nigun is a stirring melody. If you've ever been to a Hasidic gathering, and you know the Rebbe's yahrzeit, 29th anniversary of the Rebbe's passing, is going to be this Thursday on the 3rd day of Tammuz. And the Rebbe would teach many songs. All the Hasidic masters taught meditative songs. And each song came with a story. And when you sing the song, it's like a chant. You chant a song, and especially when you do it, there's individual therapy, meditation, there's group meditations. Prayer or singing a song together is a very powerful way to meditate because the song has no words. Everyone can meditate on their own. What is the song saying to me? And there is a story. When the Rebbe would teach a song, he would tell a story. Like the Shamil's Niggin, for example, which is about his great, powerful king who lived in a high region in a mountaintop, and he was free. And then they called him down to the bottom of the mountain to make a peace treaty with them, and they took him into captivity. And now he's sitting in captivity, and he's longing and yearning for the day that he will go back to be free again. And he says that, the Rebbe said, that's the metaphor of the soul. The soul was on high, it was spiritually free. Then it came into confinement, a physical world and a physical body, and then it longs for reconnection for its true freedom. And the Rebbe taught this beautiful niggun. I'll give you a taste of it. This is the king living in freedom. If you really want to know more, you could go on YouTube and Google Shamil's Niggin. That was the name of the king that was taken captive. But I'm just trying to give you a taste. There's thousands of beautiful Hasidic melodies. And it could be any song. It doesn't have to be a Hasidic melody. Sing a melody and close your eyes and feel the connection to your soul. Because these, songs are infused with the spirit of the composer. When you listen to a song that was written by a righteous person, it's coming from the strings of their soul. And by singing the song, you're connecting with its message. And just singing that melody, if you come to Shalosh Shudas at Palm Beach Synagogue, we sing beautiful melodies. Every Shalosh Shudas. Yidid, Nefesh, or B'nei Chala, beautiful melodies that stir the soul. So we have many, many different forms of meditation. But the most important thing is to know that we are in control of our thoughts. And your thoughts are not you. Don't be afraid of your thoughts. Imagine if you had a fire, right? A wall of fire right in front of you. What would you do? So you say, well, if I had a wall of fire, I would run. But remember the question I asked? I said, imagine you had a wall of fire. If there was a real wall of fire, you would run from it. But if it's an imaginary wall of fire, what would you do? You would just walk right through it because it's an imaginary fire. It's not a real fire. Many of our thoughts are exactly that. They're just imaginary. They're just thoughts. And instead of reacting to them, because when you react to something, you just embolden it. You make it bigger. That's why Churchill, I think, said, it's like a black dog. I don't respond to it. Because if you react to it, it just feeds on itself. And it just dominates more and more your thoughts. The entire message of Tanya is about thought control. And while the Alter Rebbe says very few righteous people could never have negative thoughts, most of us do have negative thoughts. But what we do with those thoughts, that's very much our power. I'll give you a modern day example. We all have computers today, right? So if you have a smartphone, what do? You have different choices, right? You have different apps. You hit the app that you want to go into, whatever that app is. Or you're on the screen, there's a news feed, and you look at all the news feed items, and you touch the screen on the story you want to read more about, right? Imagine your brain is like this computer. You have all these thoughts coming into your head, but you're the one who has to tap on the thought. Just like on your phone, the phone app is not going to open up unless you touch it. Different apps open in your brain every day, lots of different thoughts. but you choose which one you're going to tap on. So you have this negative thought about somebody else. You could tap on that thought and boom, it opens up and it develops lots of negative thoughts about this person. And you go down this dark road. Or you can say, no, I'm not touching that app. I don't want to see more about that negative action or interaction. Oh, I hear a beautiful Torah thought here on my phone. Something I heard in a Torah class. I'm going to tap on that. And I'm going to think about it more deeply. I'm going to develop it. I'm going to try to understand it better. I'll imagine myself sharing it with somebody else. I'll imagine I'm standing in front of a friend or an audience and I'm repeating it. Or maybe I'll come up with a new insight on that thought. You have a choice. Do you want to press this app, negative thoughts about someone or something? Or do you want to press on the positive thought? Or maybe there's a thought comes into your head about something beautiful that someone did. It's called, oh, let me tap on that and feel the gratitude and think about the gratitude. But on your computer screen, there's also something called pop-ups, right? You're on your screen and suddenly there's something pops up on the screen. And where did that come from? I'm not even in that field. Suddenly a whole new subject pops up on my screen. I'm sorry, I got cut off for a second. I said, sometimes you have a pop-up on your screen, right? What does that mean? You're working on something completely different on your computer. Suddenly there's a pop-up, some other subject, some other idea, some other advertisement. And you can either exit out or you could click on it. And think about your brain in that way. The brain gets pop-ups. Sometimes these random thoughts come into your head. Like, where did that come from? I wasn't even looking for that. But once again, you could either X out the pop-up or you could click on it and think about it more and more. And that's the free choice we have. There was a story about a certain chassid who he complained to the Rabbi that he has negative thoughts and he doesn't know what to do. So the Rabbi said, come back to me tomorrow night at 8:00 in the evening and we'll discuss it. So the guy comes back 8:00, he knocks on the Rebbe's door, no answer. He waits 2 minutes, he knocks again, no answer. Another 5, another 10 minutes, he looks in the window, he sees the Rebbe's in there. When he keeps on knocking, the Rebbe's not answering. After an hour or two, he goes home frustrated. Next day, he says to the Rebbe, I don't understand. You told me to come. I knocked on the door. I was knocking for 2 hours. I saw you in the house. You didn't answer. Why not? And the Rebbe said, I wanted to teach you an important lesson. No matter who's knocking, you have to decide if you're going to open the door or not. Your thoughts are nothing more than someone knocking to come in. You have to decide, am I going to let that thought in or am I not going to let that thought in? That's your choice. And that's the whole idea of controlling our thoughts, knowing from where our thoughts come, mastering our thoughts, having healthy thoughts, deep thoughts, and choosing the direction, the kavanah that our thoughts are going to have. I want to leave the last 5 minutes. I mean, this is just a very general overview of what meditation is. But as I said, just by coming to shul or not even coming to shul, even in your home, saying some basic prayers, participating in Shabbat's mirot, songs, observing Shabbat, holidays, every mitzvah is a meditation. So tefillin is a meditation of aligning the mind and the heart. A woman lighting Shabbos candles about creating light in the world. But you have to stop and think about what you're doing. What is the meaning behind the mitzvah? And every mitzvah has a meaning and a purpose. It's there to teach us something. And it's not just about the action or the speech. It's about the thought that goes into it. But as I said, giving something thought takes effort. Thinking could be the most strenuous thing we do, but it's worthwhile. It's rewarding. And you could start with just 5 minutes. And whatever it is you focus on, whether it's your God's love for you, whether it's your gratitude, whether it's your love for your fellow man, whether it's whatever, take any mitzvah you're going to do. You're going to make a blessing on food, whatever it may be, whatever mitzvah you're observing, try thinking about what you're doing and why you're doing it. and connecting with the deeper meaning that is in that mitzvah. And Judaism, you could say it's 613 mitzvot, commandments, but the word mitzvah also comes from the word connection. Tzavsa means connection. And so therefore it's 600 points of connection or meditations, 613 meditations. Every mitzvah is a meditation. Some are more obvious than others, like visiting the sick. It's a meditation on love for others, compassion, a meditation and gratitude that you're healthy, thank God, and everything that comes with that. Sometimes the meditation is not so obvious, like blowing the shofar. It's meditation on crying out to God from the depths of our soul, or shaking the lulav and esrog. It's the meditation on God being all around in all six directions, or the meditation of eating the matzah on Passover, which is the humility, the flat bread. And sometimes the mitzvah could have multiple meditations, but the most important thing is to do the mitzvot and not just do them and not just speak them, but to meditate on each one. And before you do a mitzvah, you could literally take a few seconds to think, what am I about to do? And some people, when they do a mitzvah, they have a little prayer. They say, I'm now about to perform this mitzvah of such and such. And here is the meditation. If you look in the Oscar Siddur before the putting on of tefillin, it gives you the meditation. But every person could stop and do a meditation. And as the Talmud says, a mitzvah without meditation is like a body without a soul. You could just be a machine doing things by rote. You could do it with feeling, with love, with joy, with compassion, with empathy. And the degree of the mitzvah, you could give charity with your hand, which is beautiful. You could give it with your thoughts and your feelings. And then it's a whole different experience for the recipient of the charity, because it's with feeling of empathy and love and compassion. So going back to where the class began, does Judaism believe in meditation? Meditation is the essence, the soul of Judaism. Judaism is one meditation. It's bringing as much meditation, contemplation, focus, direction into everything we do. People talk about mindfulness and meditation. Judaism is all about bringing mindfulness into everything we do. We don't drink a glass of water without mindfulness. We don't go to bed without mindfulness. We don't wake up without mindfulness. We don't go to the bathroom without mindfulness. We come out of the restroom, we have a blessing, thank you. We close our eyes or say it with your eyes open, whichever way you like to say it. God, you've fashioned my body with wisdom, with miracles being performed. If one of my arteries that were meant to be open were to be blocked, or one that was meant to be closed were to rupture, I wouldn't be able to live. And suddenly going to the restroom, which is the most physical, mundane thing we do as human beings, that most people just go in and out and don't even think. We take a moment, not a short blessing, it's 6 lines long, the Asher Yatzabre. It takes a good minute to say it properly. Take a minute to realize you just witnessed a miracle. That's right. Using the facilities and releasing the unhealthy foods that went into your body and excrements that you don't need, and are being discharged from the body, so only the healthy parts of the food should remain. The whole system from the digestion going through your body is a miracle, an unbelievable miracle that God created. And your body is that vessel for this miracle. What could be a greater miracle than witnessing that and stopping to appreciate, as the Asher says, that if God forbid you are constipated, how long could you live if you were constipated? The excruciating pain you would be in if you were constipated. Gratitude, appreciation. You don't have to have thrilling moments of your life to be grateful. Using the facilities is a moment of, if you think about it, joy, gratitude, exhilaration. I'm healthy, I'm functioning, my body is working. Not there are plenty of people in the hospitals who can't do that. And it's painful and it's terrible and it could spell death for the person. So sucking the juice out of the bone, out of the marrow of life is what mindfulness and contemplation and reflection is all about in Judaism. And the more moments we could have, we can be mindful 24/7. We're all human beings. We have a million things going on with distraction, but injecting a few moments of mindfulness and meditation through prayer, through thought, contemplation. When the women light the candles, they cover their eyes. They have a moment of meditation to pray for their family, to thank God for their lives. Injecting a few minutes a day here and a few minutes there, or whatever you could afford to spare, is not a waste of time, because we think sitting still is not productive. On the contrary, that's what uses the rest of the day with the most meaning and the most purpose and the most productivity. And therefore, Judaism has it built in, as I said, 613 mitzvahs of 613 points of connection and meditation and mindfulness in everything we do, and doing everything in our lives with as much meditation, contemplation, and mindfulness. But again, not doing it in an end unto itself, but for a higher purpose. Just thinking nothingness to be nothing is a dead end, not an end. An end, a means to an end, is using meditation to achieve a higher connection to God and to man around us. And most important thing, knowing that we have the ability to be a vessel. And that's what meditation is, to empty out your own egotistical thoughts and open yourself up to higher consciousness, to be a vessel. Because when you're a vessel, if the vessel is full, you can receive. If you're full of yourself, so to speak, if you're filled with your own ego or your own selfishness or your own improper thoughts, there's no room for a higher consciousness to come in. Empty out your thoughts, but then be open and receptive to the higher thoughts, the spiritual thoughts that are being channeled and signaled from your soul on high and your soul from deep within and from Hashem. With this, we'll just see if anyone has any questions to answer. I'm just going to go to the chat box and see if anyone said anything. Thank you. Appreciate your wishes for a good trip. Thank you very much. And I appreciate everything, all your comments. And if anyone has any questions, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your feedback. And if you want to ask a question, type it in now. If not, I just wish everyone a wonderful summer, a happy summer, and we look forward to seeing everyone soon. Thank you all for joining the class. Take care. Bye.